Right, let's go straight across to Biocon. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw is talking about the numbers, detailing them out. Let's listen in.
At last started showing strong profitability and profit growth, which up till now has been a sort of a gestational phase in terms of the investments made. And as you can see, the business is now beginning to deliver the both at the top and bottom lines. So this is a very strong quarter for us. In fact, it's one of the strongest quarters to date. And the revenue level, we have actually surpassed the 12 months last fiscal numbers. So this actually tells you about how we are growing.
All right. Also, we've seen that there's a new oral insulin drug that you're testing out with the US FDA. Any comments you can share with us on that?
Well, what is important in terms of an achievement here is the fact that we have filed a US IND, which means that now we can start initiating global development of this particular molecule. In India, the phase 3 proof of concept trials are still, undergoing the trials, and this is something that will be completed towards the middle of the year. But simultaneously, we will be commencing some other development trials, which we will do under the US IND.
Right, we are also talking about a BMS contract for both Syngene and Syngene. Any comments you can share with us on that? How is it really working for the contract?
Well, BMS has been the strongest client for us in our research services business. But having said that, we are also in the process. We've actually added on, another important large customer to Syngene, and we expect to actually add on 2 more large customers. So this is a business that is going to expand and grow very, very steadily and robustly, given the large client base we are beginning to garner.
The Amylaxin Pharma exclusive agreement? The Amylin Pharma, sorry.
Yeah, the Amylin research partnership that we have is a very interesting partnership. This is a risk-sharing and cost-sharing partnership to expand our novel program pipeline. And here, of course, Amylin is a very, very important partner for us, given the fact that they are very well recognized in discovery research in the area of diabetes. Given Biocon's strong focus on diabetes, we believe that this partnership is extremely important at this point in time. You can see that we have a very balanced approach to research between both biosimilars or generics and novel programs. So these are important times for us.
Ma'am, you had done a small acquisition recently. Can you tell us a little more about what that was for and how you've added to production capacities?
Yes, Ideal was an acquisition that we made really from a manufacturing asset point of view. This was a decision that was made in context of the company's need for expanding its API manufacturing capacity. And there was a real opportunity for us to really decide between a greenfields approach or an acquisition approach, and we chose the acquisition route because we believed that that would give us a much faster time to market kind of strategy. And this is a facility that we bought which immediately allows us to ramp up our capacity of APIs.
Ma'am, so will you be looking at the acquisition route to expand manufacturing capacities in the future also?
Yes, I think certainly we are looking at acquisitions in many, many ways. One of the areas we are looking at is in terms of our own formulations business. So that also could look at that also could be an acquisition opportunity for us. Manufacturing will always have an interest for us in terms of acquisition. And other than that, we've also made the acquisition of Axicorp last year, which was really about expanding our marketing and distribution footprint in Europe.
If I could come to that specifically, you did touch upon that very briefly, but can you tell us what is really the plan, what's the kind of growth, could give us details of that?
Well, Axicorp has been a top-line, business so far, and this is what we expect it to be for the foreseeable future, because we actually expect Axicorp to get into a high margin business once we launch our insulins in Germany. So this is the approach we've taken, and I'm pleased to say that Axicorp also has delivered some good profits. Although in terms of margin it's much lower than Biocon's traditional margins, but nevertheless, even with the Axicorp business, we have still been able to deliver 20+% margins.
Ma'am, also your generic human insulin, we understand, will be getting sometime by 2011. Any details? Further details on that?
Insulin is in the process of being developed and registered for Europe. We are in the process of completing phase 1 PK/PD trials, and then we will quickly move into phase 3 trials. So we are on track in terms of doing all of that. The regulatory process is far longer than what we originally anticipated, and that's why we are now saying that instead of 2011 it looks more like 2012.
Okay. We understand you've tied up with the US partner for this, so is the US
It's the same situation, but I think Europe is an earlier opportunity for us than the US is.
But when will you look at the US then? When is that?
Well, as soon as the regulatory path opens up in the US, we will obviously go for that. But right now the clarity of the regulatory path in Europe is far better understood.
Ma'am, you were telling us that you are expecting newer client additions for Syngene. Could you tell us how big these contracts could be in the range or indicative?
These are sizable contracts which are coming from really global pharma majors, and these are going to be in the order of the BMS kind of contracts that we have. So they are at this point in time not as large as the BMS contract, but they are getting to those levels.
And lastly, Axicorp has been a significant revenue contributor for you. What is the plan going forward for Axicorp?
Well, as I mentioned, Axicorp is a significant revenue contributor to us at this point in time, but we also expect Axicorp to become a significant profit contributor once we launch our insulins in Europe.
What about the IPO? Are you going to be floating in the IPO for Syngene?
Yes, we have plans on the anvil to really float our research services business into a separate entity, and we believe that this will unlock tremendous value for Biocon's shareholders. And
all right, Biocon numbers, they're coming in above expectations. Profit coming in at 81 crores versus the expected 75 crores. Let's take a look at the counter and how it's reacting right now. It's fairly flat so far in today's trade. Let's see how it moves up post, of course, that press meet and comments by the management. The other pharma numbers to be expected today include Piramal Healthcare, Jubilant Organosis, so we will be tracking that. Ipca Labs also will be coming out, so keep an eye out on all those pharma stocks as well later on in the day. Let's welcome in, let's actually now go back across to Shruti, who's with Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw.
Our research services business and of course our traditional API business.
Ma'am, could you also tell us about your plans for the oral insulin business? You have filed an US application, so how is that going to impact Biocon in the future?
Well, oral insulin is a very important program for us. The nearest term opportunity for oral insulin is going to be a licensing opportunity. We expect to start addressing these licensing opportunities after the middle of this calendar year, once the clinical data gets unblinded.
Ma'am, also Axicorp has done very well in this quarter, so could you tell us a little bit about what led to that growth?
Well, Axicorp has been very successful in its traditional business, and in addition to that we have won certain AOK tenders, especially the metformin tender has also been an important growth contributor.
Ma'am, also, are you looking at any more acquisitions? You were telling us that there are various segments where you will look at acquisitions.
At this point in time, we are evaluating a number of opportunities. There is nothing that really I can talk about at this point in time.
Right, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw there, talking about the highlights in terms of the numbers. Of course, Axicop, strong revenue contributor, profits, well, she expects the accrual as far as margins are concerned from Axicop to happen later on once insulin is launched in Europe and particularly Germany. Biocon, flat to marginally positive post the numbers, a lot to look forward to according to the management in the coming year. And we should also, and coming up next, we're going to talk about the other big numbers and discuss them as well as the market undertone with Sharmila Joshi. Stay with us.